Lesson 5.5, what we're going to be talking about is the point-slope form. Now, if you remember, yesterday we had a test, and our entire test was over what type of equation? Josh Ferris?
Slope, like the y function.
Okay, slope-intercept, and what was the actual formula?
Y equals and b, like mx plus b.
Very good. Y equals mx plus b. That was an equation that will help us graph a line. Remember, we needed m and b. Let's think about the name of that equation. Slope-intercept form. So we needed a slope, or an m, and a b, y-intercept. The name tells us exactly what we need. That is not the only type of function or equation that represents a line. There's actually two more that we're going to learn about. The first one we're going to learn about today is called the point-slope form. So let's see if your brains can reason this. I'm sure they can. If the first type of line we learned was called the slope-intercept, that meant we needed a slope and an intercept. And this type of line is called a point-slope. What are the two things do you think we're going to need, Dion? A point and a slope. Very good. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to write this equation down. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You have to memorize this formula. You have to memorize this formula. You say, okay, well, we know a slope. I know that's m. I see that. And then we need a point. But what are the letters that represent a point? X and y. Look at the x's and y's. How many do we have in here? 2. There's 2 of each, okay? So how do you know which one is which? Actually, very simple. The x and y that has numbers in for it, x1, y1, those are the ones that we plug in numbers for. x1, y1. So I need an m and a point in order to write an equation. Y and x, the y and x will always be y and x. There will never be a number plugged in for them. However, x1 and y1 should always have an ordered pair plugged in for those. So there should be a number in for x1 and there should be a number in for y1. Also, there should be a number in for slope because it's point slope. Now remember, whenever we have this formula, you have to memorize it, and it's a subtraction sign. So if I've got a negative number, we're going to have to pay attention to that. So let's do the first example. Use the point slope form to write an equation. What did they give us in this example? Josiah? A slope and a point. So, can I write the equation using this slope and point? Absolutely. Let's rewrite the point slope form. Somebody raise your hand and tell me what the point slope form is. You should have already written it down on your paper. Josiah?
Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1.
Perfect. So let's go through and let's label what we have. Well, first of all, we already know m is negative 2. What would negative 3 be in this equation? X1. Let's just put it x1 so we don't ever get confused. And then what would negative 4 be? Y1. So now all it is plugging in the numbers. So we say y minus y1. Well, what is y1? What does the double negative change to? A positive. So it has to be plus 4. Equals m, which is negative 2, times x minus x1. Well, what's x1? Negative 3. So what is this double negative going to change to? Positive. That's your answer. That's it. All we're doing is plugging it in. Now, here are the 2 most common mistakes on these problems right here. Mistake number 1, they plug the x and y in for the wrong x and y. Mistake number 2, which is the worst mistake people make, or I guess I should say the most often mistake people make, they forget about their signs and they write Y minus 4 equals negative 2 times x minus 3. No, you've got to pay attention to signs. If there's two negative signs, you have to make it a plus. Okay? All right, let's do the next one. What is 2 in my equation? X1. What is negative 1? Y1. So let's plug in the numbers. Michael, plug in the numbers for me.
Y minus negative 1 equals m times x minus 2.
So I'm going to do m times x minus 2. Is that correct?
No, you gotta change the double negative.
Okay, we got to change the double negative, but also we've got to plug in our m. Very good. So the double negative becomes a positive. But do you see the x? We didn't change that to a positive because it wasn't a negative. There was no double negative there. Okay? So that's what we do whenever they give us exactly what we need. We needed a point, we had a point. We needed a slope, we had a slope. So we're going to go a step farther now. We always have to go a step farther. What are the two things I need for point slope form?
X and Y.
A point and a slope. Did they give us a point? Yeah, actually, they gave us 2. 1, 2. But did they give us a slope?
No.
No. So we're going to have to find slope. Good news. You guys already know how to do that. What do we use to find slope? Michaela?
M equals y1 minus y. Wait, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x2.
Perfect. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's label x1, y1, x2, y2. And let's plug in these points. So we have negative 2 minus 6 over 1 minus negative 3. Well, what's that double negative? Positive. Negative 2 minus 6 is?
Negative
1 plus 3 is?
8.
4. Can I leave my answer like this? Negative 8 over 4? No. What does it need to become?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Now do I know a point and a slope? Yes. Now, this is just like our slope-intercept form where, remember when we had 2 points, we could use whichever point we wanted? That's the same thing here. Technically, I could use either point because that would still represent the line, the same line. However, because we're not solving for a certain letter like we did in slope-intercept, it's when whatever point we choose to plug in is our final answer. I want everybody to do the same one. So I want everybody to always use the first point. You say, but would my answer be wrong if I chose the second point? No, technically your answer would still be right. However, it just makes it so much easier if everybody has the same answer. So let's all use the first set of points because now we have an M and we have points, or a slope and a point. So let's plug it into our point slope formula. So Kim, tell me what I would plug in where.
6 equals
So what's our, well, somebody tell me this. What's our point slope form?
Y minus y1 equals n times x1, or x minus x1.
Okay. So Kim, now tell me, what would I plug in where?
1 minus 6 equals negative 2 x minus negative
Can I leave it minus negative 3?
2.
No, change it to a positive. There we go. There's our answer. Okay, next example. What do I need to find first, Jordan? A slope. How would I find slope, Naeem? What am I going to do? Okay, let's label our points. X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and Naeem, plug those in for me. The double negative changes to a Positive. What's 1 minus 3?
-2.
-2. What's -1 plus 2? 1. -2 over 1 can be reduced to -2. You don't have to keep it a fraction if it can be a whole number. We do have to keep it a fraction if it's an improper fraction or just a regular fraction. Okay? So now, which one of these 2 points am I going to use to write my final answer? The first one. Jared, plug in the numbers for me to the point, or the point slope form.
The x, well, you give it y minus y equals m.
Plug in the...
Oh, y is it the 2?
Look what we labeled our ordered pair, x1, y1. So look at our formula right above it, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and plug in the
it's gonna be
numbers. Okay, so y minus 3 equals m. What's our m?
I don't know.
We just found it right here.
Oh, -2.
-2 times x. What's our x1?
2. -2.
-2. So our double negative becomes a
Positive.
positive. That's my final answer. Okay, our last example, we're going to do the exact same thing. Just one more of these. We're going to get something a little bit different, though. What would I do first? What's my first step? Slope. So, Josh Center, plug in the numbers for me.
-2 minus 1, 1 minus 3.
Perfect. What's -2 minus 1? -3. What's 1 minus 3? -2. What is this double negative going to change my answer to?
Positive.
A positive. Do I need to make this fraction an or a mixed number?
No.
No. Do I need to make it a decimal? No, because what did we just find? Slope. And slope is rise over run. So we can't ever make it a decimal or a mixed number. So we leave it as 3 over 2. Now, JT, which one of these ordered pairs am I going to use for my formula? Am I going to use the first ordered pair or the second ordered pair? The first ordered pair. So this is x1, y1. Now, I have not written the formula on this slide. So you can either look at your notes or you should be memorizing it. So Kim, what would I plug in where?
You do y minus 1 equals 3 over 2 x minus 3.
Perfect. Very good. That's all we're going to do. That's how you do point slope form.